the heart of your district is the city of Rome, and you have been the mayor of Rome for 11 years. They call you the rock and roll mayor. Why was that?
Well, I was a young mayor, one of the youngest elected in the city's history, so obviously I was more in tune with contemporary music. And also, I was 10 years ago one of the individuals who brought the international music festival known as Woodstock to the city of Rome, New York, which attracted over 300,000 listeners to the city of Rome. So from my past experiences in contemporary music, and then also in being involved as one of the individuals who brought the concert by working with the promoters to our area in 1999. This is now the 10th anniversary of that event, but also the 40th anniversary of Woodstock. That's how I think the name kind of stuck with me.
At the time, the Irish were the district leaders, and he had a club called the Bowery Bay Democratic Club. It was on Steinway Street. And they joined that club. And when LaPiccolo was a lawyer, he recommended him wanted them to run for one of the local positions, assemblyman or a city council position. And the district leader at that time was Frank McGlynn. His very uncouth response to him, he says, Ralph, he says, we can't put him up for that. He says, we're not ready for a guinea to take an elected position. I'll get him a job with the sanitation department. He says, what do you mean? Sanitation? To pick up garbage as an attorney? You ought to be ashamed of yourself, even suggesting something like that. So they left the club and they formed their own little bit of a club on 31st Street in Astoria, a little storefront. And Nicky Ferraro lived right next door to him. And when he graduated, Ralph told me, he says, look, Nicky, he says, it'll do you a lot of good to join a political club. You know, it can help you out in your career. He said, if you can, get some of those fellows that you hang out with, because we need some young blood in the club. So I said, okay. I came with myself, got my other 3 brothers in. The fellows that were hanging, the Gaspari boys, there were another 5 brothers. If we brought in about 15 to 20 young blood into the club. And we started making moves. And my first election was as a county committee person. And there was and I beat an Italian who was a long-time county committeeman, and he never expected that we could do anything. You know, they were entrenched so long, they thought that they were invincible. Well, we wound up taking not enough the first time to take over the leadership. But the second time around, we got a couple of more county committee, and we wound up taking over the leadership. And we became the recognized club in the district.
Our question now is, when you decided to enter community activity and then politics and join the party and everything, was there an Italian network that helped you in this originally?
No, not really. In fact, that's when I first encountered some resistance to being Italian American. Not among the population, but I recall a conversation with the head of the Democratic Party in this county at the time, Dan O'Connell, who was a legendary political figure, a very strong leader, and did it for years, Irish. And he and Mayor Corning were, you know, not contemporaries, but it was the Democratic Party dominated Albany County, and chiefly through Daniel O'Connell. So when I was interested in running, a friend, a prominent attorney, thought I should meet Dan O'Connell, and I went to see him. And he said, "Kid, you can't win. First of all, you're too young." I was 32. He's, plus you're Italian. This is an Irish, you know, she's an Irish mayor. The mayor was a female, Virginia McDonald. She's very popular. There's no way you're going to beat her. But he mentioned the Italian thing, which really annoyed me. But he said, good luck. He didn't stop me. He didn't encourage me. And I wouldn't be deterred. And I ran and won very narrowly, but I won and I defeated her. But that was the first time someone said to me, Italian American, you can't, you know, because of that, among other labels. You're too young, she's too popular, you can't make it, but you're Italian American. And that annoyed me.
I think I was the first. Some of them were involved in union politics. My father was a Teamster. My grandfather was involved in the Postal Service Workers Union. My grandmother, the Italian one, she was a delegate for Local 1199. She went to work in Booth Memorial Hospital in Queens after her husband died. She decided she'd go out and get a full-time job then. And she worked there until she was 75. And she became very active in Local 1199. I remember they had a strike in, it was 1987. She had gotten me a job in the cafeteria at the hospital. And I didn't belong to the union. It was a separate entity. But she led the strike there as the chief shop steward. And in fact, she would make me walk the picket line with her. And I remember once during that strike, she made me lay down in the driveway with her to prevent the supply trucks from coming into the hospital. She was very militant when it came to workers' rights. And in fact, both my grandfather, my mother's father also was very active in the Longshoremen's Union, and then later as an iron worker. So I had that background with respect to union politics, and in fact, it kind of propelled me into the labor movement when I went to work for the city.
Was anybody involved in politics in your family?
Yes, my aunt, believe it or not. It was the woman. My Aunt Mary worked for the city of Utica. She was in the clerk's office. She was a deputy clerk, and she was very active in politics. And there were often times as I was growing up that they needed volunteers to work on somebody's campaign. And I began, I think I was in 8th grade. I was very young. I was making phone calls for different mayoral candidates and different things like that. So I think that's where my taste for politics began. I do have the Italian vote. I do believe, because now I have, I think that I have proven to them, I think they understand my, how I feel about my Italian heritage, that I'm so proud of my Italian heritage, and that I support many of the efforts to make sure that Italian Americans are demonstrated in a positive light. I have spent from long before I became an elected official being very much part of the Italian American community in my home community. In the beginning, the Italian Republicans, I think, were questioning my ability to represent the district, but I think after several of them challenged me, I think it became apparent to all Italian Americans that I could do the job and I was representing the district well.
Well, as I mentioned, he had a shoe store, and my dad, the upholstery store next door. But the shoe store, shoe repair, had originally been not just a shoe repair shop with a small front and a very large back room. And what he did eventually is he enlarged the back room, and while everything in the front said shoe repairs, when people would come to have their shoes fixed, he would send them to one of his colleagues on the next block. Why was this? Is because his store became the gathering place in the neighborhood for all the old Italians. And he had tables set up in the back room and in the backyard, and the tables, the men would come in, only men, and they would play cards, and they would drink wine. And when he had decided, I guess, to make the transition from shoes to hospitality, he had this enormous wine vat, and they made wine right in the basement. And it certainly wasn't a secret, because when they made wine, you could smell it 4 blocks away. I mean, really. And the local police were all Irish, and they would come by, but these were all law-abiding, hard-working Italian men, and they would stop by, have a soda. I don't even think most of them drank wine, and that was all he had, no hard liquor. And they were very friendly, because since there were so many Italian men there, the local politicians, who were all Jewish, would come by. They were very friendly with my grandfather, very friendly with my father, Paul. Everybody was a Democrat. As soon as you were able to be a citizen and enroll to vote, these leaders, they would enroll all these Italian men, and everybody voted straight Democratic. It was my father's proudest boast, until the day that I encouraged him to change to conservative, that he was a lifelong Democrat. And I have to admit, in my growing up years, right up until I left for the service, January 1952, I don't think I ever saw a Republican down on the Lower East Side.
To have you here. Thanks very much, Senator.
Grazie.
Prego. So, lei parla italiano, bene.
Io posso parlare, ma non molto bene. Parlo un poco.
That's good. That's very well. That's very good.
I learned it from my grandmother. My grandma is son of...
So that's one of the few cases in which they talk.
My grandmother would never speak English, only Italian. But you spoke to her in English, she understood. Spoke to you in Italian.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and then I took 2 years in high school. Great teacher for 2 years.
Many Italian Americans never study.
She was a great teacher. Her name was Bianca Parrish. I think she was from the Naples area. She was just, I enjoyed her, so we took the course. I also took 2 years of French, but the French teacher was like Italian, and he used to talk French in Italian accent. Courage, mes amis, courage.
So, thank you so much.
It's my pleasure, all right?
Thanks so much
All
for
right.
your time.
Thanks.
How do you